Alright guys, the hype for Nintendo's next generation system, or the Nintendo Switch 2, is pretty much at an all-time high right now, and it just seems like there's so many things happening where it's kind of out of control, especially this week, and we're going to get into all of that inside of this video. And some people are even anticipating there might be an announcement happening this week, and honestly I feel like tomorrow would be the last day if something is going to be happening this week, as I'm going to be uploading this video on Tuesday night, and if something is going to happen, they would probably make the announcement on Wednesday, and then the reveal would happen Thursday if it is going to be this week. And I do feel like this week would be the best week if it's going to happen in September, as next week there's supposed to be like a PlayStation showcase happening, and then there's also going to be Tokyo Game Show starting at the end of the week, and then Nintendo has their brand new Zelda game coming out, so there'd be so many things going on that I feel like next week putting a Switch 2 reveal in there just would not make any sense. But if it happens this week, then honestly that way they could even have stuff be announced at Tokyo Game Show and have stuff be discussed for the Switch 2 if we finally get that unveiling. So who knows what happens, we really have no idea. But regardless, I do think that the reveal for the system is very close, and there's just a lot of things happening here, so we've got a lot to cover here, and I don't want to make the video too long, so we can just jump right into it. Alright, so the first thing that we've got here is this really interesting post where apparently there was a Chinese factory worker who's claiming that the Nintendo Switch 2 has already begun mass production in China. So this is a Famiboard user who translated all of the information that they provided on a Chinese forum, and it basically just says here, this is brand new information from a Chinese forum poster who didn't have an insider track record. Therefore, the following is strictly for fun and giggles. So the person on the Chinese forum didn't have any prior track record, so we don't know for sure if they're talking about like the truth here or if they're just messing around, so obviously take it with a grain of salt. But they're claiming that the Switch 2 has already begun production somewhere in China, and there's about 1,000 units per day, and that's from one worker, not the whole line. And then in terms of information about it, he says slightly larger than the Switch 1 with smaller bezels, black and white Joy-Con, slightly larger logo with a 2 on the side. And the reason for that 2 is because apparently the system is literally going to be called Nintendo Switch 2. Now that's already kind of been like a mixed opinion that I've seen online, where people are saying like it shouldn't be called Switch 2, like Nintendo should have a creative name to it. And honestly, while Nintendo does have creative names usually, or like they try to make creative names that are different sounding, I really wouldn't mind if they just called this system the Nintendo Switch 2, and I feel like that would definitely get the point across. It would obviously be like the safest kind of name that they could go with, as like it's just called Nintendo Switch 2. Like, I mean, honestly, the best part about that is that there wouldn't be any type of like transition period where like we would have to go from like the slang name that we call it to what the official name is, because there's always that kind of period that happens whenever we have like a slang name for something, where like I think the last time I remember was like for how many years we just called it Breath of the Wild 2 since it was revealed back in 2019, until Nintendo was finally like, all right, it's called The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and then you had to like train your brain to start calling it Tears of the Kingdom and not Breath of the Wild 2. This would be kind of funny, because I remember that happening with the NX as well, where we kept saying NX, and then it got announced as the Switch, but then there was that period where you had to remind yourself to not call it NX anymore, but call it the Nintendo Switch. This would be funny because if it's called the Switch 2 officially, we just keep calling it Switch 2. Like that's what we've been all calling it for like so many years now. So that would be kind of funny. But yeah, in terms of other information, they mentioned here that it's going to be black and white Joy-Con, so that could honestly be a couple of things. It could be like just it's going to have two different configurations, like what we had with like the Wii U, where there's going to be like one that comes with white Joy-Con and one that comes with black Joy-Con. Or maybe they are going to do some type of like cookies and cream combo thing where you're going to have like one white Joy-Con and one black Joy-Con, and that's going to be how they come with, kind of like how the Switch came with like a red Joy-Con and a blue Joy-Con. Maybe they could do something like that, but that's pretty much all the information that they provided. So honestly, it does seem believable, but at the same time, this person doesn't have any prior track record. But apparently also on the forum, they supposedly like gave a picture of like their ID badge for the place that they work. Now, I didn't get to see the picture, so I don't know like how true or believable it was, but people were also saying that the mod started taking down all of this person's posts. Now, you could think of that in two ways, as one being like, okay, if this information is actually reputable, this person might get in trouble, because if they didn't like blur out their name or anything when they showed their ID, like this person is definitely getting fired if they're actually posting sensitive information or anything like that. So maybe the mods are just doing that to kind of scrub all of that information, or it could just be a troll and the mods can easily see that it's just somebody kind of messing around and they don't want that information on the forum, so they're just deleting all of the troll posts. We have no idea which one to believe, honestly. Take the entire thing with a grain of salt, but I do find this like entire kind of just topic to be interesting, because if the Switch 2 really has entered mass production, I hope Nintendo does have an announcement planned very soon, because we've seen things about this like get shown before official announcements happen. The Switch Lite had like the entire shell of that system and like what it's going to look like get posted before the official reveal. I really hope that doesn't happen with the Switch 2, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Now, when it comes to other interesting information, we had Andy Robinson here who also said something interesting about how since the Switch launch, Nintendo has held a Nintendo Direct every September without fail, and usually around now, just saying. And then Chris Drink basically put an eye emoji. Now, a lot of people are looking like kind of really deep into this as if like he's teasing some type of leak or something in terms of like a future event happening very soon or potentially this week. And I don't really think that that's the case. I think he's just kind of pointing out that like this week there has been always something that's happened, and I don't expect there to be a Nintendo Direct this year because of all the stuff that's been happening, and especially it's just been kind of weird because it seemed like Nintendo was definitely pushing up those presentations that were supposed to be planned for September to the end of August, where we had like that indie presentation and the partner showcase kind of all mashed together at the very end of August. And we had leaks that were saying that apparently it was because they were going to announce the Switch 2 this month, and this is kind of that week where I feel like it's the best week to have anything happening. Guess we'll see what happens tomorrow, but I don't know. I mean, it would be really weird if we don't get anything this month, because then it's just like, well, what was the point of moving up those presentations to August? Like, you could have just had that indie Direct and then the partner showcase happen this week if you were never going to show the Switch 2 in the first place. I'll never understand Nintendo. I don't think anybody ever will. Now, this is actually some really interesting information, because we had Liam Robertson here say, seems like a lot of developers got invited to Nintendo of America yesterday. Now, this is real information because we actually had a picture that this developer actually straight up just posted here saying, we had an awesome visit to Nintendo of America today. I'm grateful that we have such great partners at Nintendo of America. And this is the CEO of Limited Run Games. So it's a lead designer. And so this is kind of interesting, because if this person straight up got invited to Nintendo headquarters and we have a picture here, that proves that this information here is true as well. We don't know what other developers got invited, but a lot of people are looking into this thinking that maybe they got like a special in-depth kind of preview about the Switch 2 and maybe got some information on dev kits or something, because at this point, every kind of major developer I'm sure has gotten a Switch 2 dev kit for a while now. Like if you're like Capcom or Square Enix or somebody like that, you've gotten a Switch dev kit for a while. But if you're like kind of one of those medium-sized developers who's not super big into like the AAAs, or you're kind of like an indie developer, you're not going to be getting Nintendo's like immediate access to their dev kits right away. But if they have those types of developers and they invite them to their headquarters like what we see here, and getting a chance to kind of look at like the system and maybe see what the dev kits are going to be like and stuff, that's very possible. Or it could just be for something completely different. But the fact that these are developers, I definitely feel like it has to be something not related to just something with the current Switch. I feel like it definitely has to be something with next gen hardware. Some people were saying like, what if they just got to play like Mario Party or something? Well, if that's the case, why would you invite developers? Like, wouldn't it make more sense to invite YouTubers and people like that? These are actual developers who make games, and I feel like the only reason to invite those people would be if you have information about a new system that they're going to be developing games for. Now, there's also been people discussing this post on the Gaming Leaks and Rumor subreddit, where somebody said here, my time at Evershine is coming to future Nintendo platforms yet to be announced. Kickstarter campaign launches on September 24th. So basically, a game was announced to be coming to the future Nintendo system, but they're talking about their Kickstarter starting on September 24th. And people are saying, well, if the Kickstarter starting on September 24th, does that mean the Switch 2 is going to be revealed before then if the game is already confirmed to be coming to it? And I don't really think that that's the case. You can still announce a game for a future system and then still have your Kickstarter campaign get announced, and then that way people just know like to expect it on the next system. It's like if I was a developer and if I said like, guys, by the way, my game is going to be coming on the PlayStation 6. I'm going to start my Kickstarter next week. Doesn't mean that Sony needs to show off the PlayStation 6 by next week. It just means like, you know, you can start giving me money on the Kickstarter, but the game is going to be coming on the PlayStation 6. And finally, I guess I should talk about this too. I really didn't want to make a video on this person because I don't think that this information is worth talking about, but at this point, I guess if nothing happens tomorrow, we can talk about the possibility of this, as there was somebody on a GTA 6 Discord by the name of Moisty Charlie who said apparently what day the PS5 Pro was going to get announced and how much it was going to cost, and then that turned out to be true. As we can see right here in this post, they said here, I can now confirm PS5 Pro gets announced September 10th, the day after the iPhone event. And at first, when you look at the date here, it looks like May 9th, which seems kind of crazy if they already knew from back in May that it was going to be announced on this day and that the iPhone event was going to happen the day before too. But obviously by looking at the time here where it's almost close to 23 o'clock, it most likely means that this is a European person, and then that would mean that the time now is in 24 hours, which would then mean that the date is also reversed. So that would probably mean that the date here is actually September 5th. And if that's the case, this doesn't become as insane anymore because the iPhone event was already announced by then. And I just feel like this whole discussion about like the PS5 Pro getting announced last week wasn't really that hard to predict. Like that last week was so heavily rumored for a PS5 Pro announcement to begin with, and even if this person got the pricing correct, $700 was also a price that was heavily rumored and in the discussion of how much a PS5 Pro would cost. And that's why I didn't really feel like it was worth talking about this, because they got that correct, and then they started saying here, Switch 2 gets announced early next month. I'm hearing a base MSRP of $400. It'll come in 2 different SKUs. Haven't gotten clarification and the specific differences between them though. So then they gave information about that, and now people are saying, well, they got the PS5 information correct, so they're definitely getting this information correct too. And it's just like, I don't think that the PS5 Pro info about it being announced last week and costing $700 was super hard to predict. I feel like it was a fairly reasonable prediction that somebody could have. Now, if this person said something that was unbelievable, kind of like if they said like the PS5 Pro is going to be $700, but it's not going to come with a disc drive or a stand, that would be impressive, because that sounds so delusionally stupid that you wouldn't believe that to be the case, and it still ended up being real because we're not getting a disc drive and we're not getting a stand, but that's not the case here. So that's why I feel like the discussion of it being $700 and it being announced last week was already pretty believable and likely to happen, which is why I didn't want to talk about this, because I don't find this person to be super impressive. If the Switch 2 does get announced early October, I guess I'll take it back, but I don't know. I just really didn't want to talk about this person, but I guess I'd talk about it here now anyway, just in case somehow nothing happens next week. I don't think that we're going to see it happen in September then, so maybe it'll happen in the first week of October, and maybe Moisty Charlie knew everything all along. But there you go, guys. That is pretty much all the information about the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal. Just so many things all over the place. I really hope that Nintendo just announces this system very soon before a picture of it gets out, if it's actually in mass production, but just in general so that we can finally have something exciting to start talking about. I still have plenty of Nintendo Switch 2 video ideas, but I would love to talk about it more officially, having actual information too, so hopefully the reveal is very close. Maybe even tomorrow. That would be really funny if I get to make a video tomorrow giving actual predictions about the Switch 2, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, definitely be sure to click that like button and also subscribe to the channel, as well as I'm definitely gonna have some more videos talking about the Switch 2, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. Comment down below and let me know what you guys think about this. How do you guys feel about all of this information? What are your thoughts on it? Definitely be sure to comment down below and let me know. But if you don't have anything to say about this, just comment your favorite emoji down below for some engagement. I would really appreciate it. Go follow me on Twitter at Aero so you can be featured in videos, and also join my Discord server as well. We've got a bunch of people in there who are always talking about Pokemon and Smash Bros. And the Switch 2, so definitely be sure to join that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching.